guys, time to show off a new full cerakote build. Well, it's not full cerakote. I guess the band we're doing a custom canvas and leather strap. And what I did is I sent the strap to my cerakote guy so that we could match cerakote. So it's not a full cerakote build. So there is no cerakoted band. But beyond that, we have a dual cerakote. So I had a one of my original acid etched bronze Kraken dials. And what's cool with those is you can tell that it's bronze and it's painted green and it's distressed, baked. But in certain pops of light, you can kind of see that bronze really pop. And it's marred up. It's got little teeny specks all over the spots where, or the raised areas where they essentially burn through too. So you can kind of see those all throughout on the bronze. So he had that, and he had this band from Gillespie over at Wristbound. So nice green and a nice dark brown. So brown it almost kind of looks black, but you can tell with the stitching there that it's brown. We did the case in a nice antique bronze. Then we did the milled case back, ring, crown, and bezel in a complementary green. Then obviously on that bezel we inlaid that same bronze throughout. So technically, if you look hard enough, one of these holes is slightly bigger, and that is to give you that appearance of which one is 12. But technically, if you're not looking too hard enough and this gets bumped or whatever and you move it around, now this is on there real tight, so you're not probably going to bump it, but unless you look really hard, you'd be like, oh, okay, it lines up. Oh, that one's just slightly larger. But this is a vintage, it's actually a vintage bronze bezel, probably 30 years old, but it is done up because it goes nicely, because this is a 710 case. You don't see me use 710 cases very often because the stem length on these is shorter and it limits what bezels I can use. So a lot of my aftermarket bezels I can't use, or if I do, they come up over the crown. And if it's a new watch, if it's a watch for a new customer, it can be a little awkward if they don't understand how the winding and setting works, and like being comfortable doing that with that up under the crown or up under the bezel. It's kind of weird. So you can see that that doesn't impede it, doesn't come over it. Did a set of aged black hands. They look like they're just black hands. The hour minute, not the seconds. Seconds is just a black seconds hand, but these are actually silver hands that were put into acid and aged. So you could see it a lot better when it's not under glass whenever I was doing them. But they do just kind of look like they're black hands, but they're technically aged silver hands. Kraken engraved crown, case back, and you have a bronze matching cerakoted buckle on here. And that is the build. As you saw, the bezel will go left, it'll go right. It is a bidirectional bezel. Automatic mechanical, you've got a rotor in the back that as you're moving, it is winding. So whenever you go to put this on, make sure you wind it just a little bit before you put it on, because if you are not very active and you are not moving around, it will stop running. So what you're going to do is you're going to break the back of the crown off the threads. So you hear it and feel it clicking. Now you want to make sure you're off the tubes, because right there at that last one, you can really hear it, but you're not actually off the tubes. You'll know because you'll have a little bit of a play. You can feel that it kind of goes up and down. At that point, you can wind. And a wind, and it's turned that way. Turning it towards you doesn't wind it, but it is a lot easier to keep your finger spacing and go back and forth. Man, something there. Go back and forth like this for 4 or 5 seconds before you put it on. Mix with your rotor movement. Will keep your time throughout the day. If you do it for something longer, like another 4 or 5 seconds, you're going to max out your 31-hour plus power reserve on it. You cannot overwind it, so don't worry about that. You've got a your mainspring in there will essentially deflect and slip and not put any more pressure to it. You cannot overwind it. It has a slipping mainspring. That's the words I was looking for. So once you're happy with your winding, you're going to pull it to the one and only click. You can now set your time. You'll notice that your seconds hand will keep going because you do not have a hacking movement. You'll also notice you've got a wobble crown. This deflects lateral pressure from going into the stem and into the movement, so when you're pushing and prying on it, you're not putting any adverse pressures on anything. Okay, Google, what time is it? 11:58 a.m. Push this over, get it out of that time setting, and then wind it down. And that is the build. Man, it's driving me nuts. Get a better look there on that canvas. As with every build, you're going to get matching beads. Now, we couldn't quite match the greens perfectly, but we got them in that wheelhouse. A lot of these brown tiger eye go nicely with bronze. This is going to come in a Kraken slider box with a green watch pillow. This one will come with watch cleaner. This is good on all glass and metal parts. Everything here in the center. Non-streaky, non-toxic, non-residue, as well as a microfiber. This will come with leather conditioner to keep that canvas perfectly soft. Now, what you'd do is you'd put it on the inside, on the leather side. If you ever feel that it's not as pliable, put it on there, work it in. Use a rag or something like that. Do not use one of your microfibers. And just let it sit, kind of work it in. And then lastly, you're going to get some fine scratch remover. This is Novus 2 from Amazon, just repackaged. It's like Polywatch. It's for your acrylic glass. You can scratch that. But if you do, you'll put a tiny bit of this on it and buff it out using your color matching and included microfiber. If the scratch is up and down, just go left and right, filling that scratch. Haze it, buff it out. It should be gone. If it's still there, wait a little bit, let that solidify, and then revisit that. If you scratch a cerakote, that's different. If it's a surface scratch, just use some gun oil on it. That should mask it. If you do it deep enough that you see the silver, it's just like if you did it to your car, you are in a bit of trouble because you need that re-cerakoted. And hopefully it's not the case, which is pretty much the only thing you can really mar up. So try not to do that to the case. And yeah, because you'd have to pull everything out. Glass, movement, bezel off, redo it all. So would not be a cheap correction. Whereas like your buckle, we could just do another one. Or the bezel, we could just do another one. Though it is kind of those with the cerakote on it, it does make it a little tough to pry things apart because the tolerances are now tighter. Everything's tighter, so slipping things in between to separate them is not ideal. So it's not one of those watches that you go wear to play a sport or I don't know. Don't be too active. Don't be hitting stuff with it because you can ruin that. It is abrasion resistant, but you don't want to get in there too wild. So that's the build. If it's going to you, congrats. I hope you like it a ton. And if you want me to build you something custom and unique, reach out and I'll see what I can do. If you want to continue to see videos like this, like and subscribe as I put them up all the time. Thanks, guys.